So with Fear the Walking Dead Season 5 introducing the CRM, or to most people, the helicopter people who took Rick Grimes away during the halfway point of Season 9 of The Walking Dead, I'm wondering, what is the connection between Fear the Walking Dead, the Rick Grimes movies, and more specifically, will Al play a specific part within those movies? Will she try to tell Rick Grimes' story? Let's jump right into it. So if you're anything like me, Fear the Walking Dead is back on the air and you're pretty excited for it. In fact, just having any type of The Walking Dead content on television is always pretty much a good thing, even if the episodes aren't particularly good one week to the next. And for me, if you saw my review for Fear the Walking Dead Season 5 Episode 1, you know that I'm really kind of enjoying this season. I feel like they're setting up something really unique. I still have my problems with a couple of the characters, but setting up Logan and the CRM, along with Al getting kind of wrapped up in this, and understanding that the Fear the Walking Dead cast and the story that's being told right now is still behind the point where Rick Grimes got lifted up by that helicopter to be saved and brought over to his own movie trilogy. And the thing that really captures my attention here, I mentioned it in the review, but I wanted to just go back over it. Al's character, her introduction in Season 4 always felt a little bit off. No character in the entire Walking Dead universe has even remotely come close to her. In fact, she seems to be one-track mind, very focused on what she wants to do outside of everybody else that she's around at almost every single point in her existence within this universe. She wants to go out of her way to document and make sure she has a history of any important or remotely interesting story from anyone that she encounters in the Walking Dead universe. And as I said in my review, it's going to start getting a little bit crazy because Al seemingly has met everyone within this universe, somehow meeting Madison as she was torn away from everyone after the events of Season 3, and even after the big shocker of Season 5's premiere, having met Daniel at some point, gotten an interview with him, and even that little Easter egg in Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, where it's hinted at the fact that she talked to Abraham and his group before he found Rick Grimes and everyone during the Walking Dead's timeline. There's a lot there with her character, and it always kind of felt a little bit off with her introduction and what they're going for with her character for the future of this particular series. I speculated when we first met her in Season 4 that her connection to the series was going to be a lot broader than just simply being the new character on Fear the Walking Dead. In fact, I felt like she represented at least an embodiment of a character that would help document and tell the story of the Walking Dead universe, specifically Rick Grimes' character after the death of Carl Grimes in Season 8 of The Walking Dead. I felt like at some point these two characters were destined to meet, and the end point of the entire series, be it the movies, the television shows, or whatever they decide to do, would be them finally sitting down, putting a camera on Rick Grimes, and saying, start from the beginning. And that is pretty much summing up his story for this entire universe. Yes, everything can survive without him. You have Daryl and Carol, Ezekiel, Maggie, Michonne, and everybody else going along, having their adventures, this new spinoff, Fear the Walking Dead, anything else they want to do in the future. But this is Rick Grimes' story, and the very end of it was always going to be him and Al sitting down together as he finally tells her the entire story of everything that we had seen up until that point. To me, that represents a fantastic ending for his character as a whole, and something that I would love to see in the future of the series. Of course, at the end of Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, that didn't really seem possible. You had Morgan throughout that entire season telling the entire group that they were going to go to Alexandria, and it felt like at that time, Season 5 and maybe even Season 6 would be going through backflips in order to put more and more obstacles between this group and Alexandria, to the point where they were going to get there, take up as much time in this time jump, and have Al finally sit down with Rick Grimes near the ending of Fear the Walking Dead and the Walking Dead story. Of course, season 9 of The Walking Dead put a huge monkey wrench in that theory at the time, because it looked like, because Andrew Lincoln was leaving, he was going to go do these movie trilogies, and Walking Dead as a whole went up several years into the future, where it felt like Fear the Walking Dead couldn't logically catch up. But now it seems like they're going back into that theory, and this is what they're aiming for. Remember, if Al's character wants to document interesting things and always be looking at the next biggest story, there's no way, even if Morgan and Alicia and everybody else goes to try to find her after the events of this first episode, there's no way that she wouldn't want to go with the CRM. And I'm totally fine with that. I don't need Morgan and Alicia and all these other people, at least at this point, to go out of their way and join this community, especially when they have something that they would rather be doing. But Al has always felt a little out of place within this group, kind of a little bit more stupid than everybody, trying to do everything she can in her power to get a good story and go where the drama is. I feel like even though she might wake up, she might be kidnapped by these people, there's going to be something inside her that wants to go with them, and they're setting her up to be a main focus within the movies, transitioning her from Fear the Walking Dead into the Rick Grimes movies and playing a focal point within at least that first movie, if not the entire trilogy, of her and Rick Grimes going through all of these obstacles together, talking to each other, and her always pestering him to give her the true and final story about what he went through within the zombie apocalypse. Understanding that he knows Morgan, he's connected to everything that she has been a part of, and this is something that will be hung over this entire trilogy, setting up Rick Grimes's final moments within the franchise. The point where he's ready to stop fighting and start telling somebody his story and documenting it. I feel like this would play really nicely too with that scene from season 5 of The Walking Dead when they first got to Alexandria and Rick was the most uncomfortable person talking about his experiences outside those walls. He didn't want to talk about it. No fight was ever over, and there was no reason to sit down and relax at this point. You always had to be on guard. At the end of these movies, I really hope that Rick finds time to sit down and understand that his life has meant something. He's been fighting for things, and it's finally time to relax, whether he's dying at that point or not. Because one of the things that we have to talk about just briefly here, and yes, big spoiler warnings right now for things that have just happened within these last couple of days, but issue 192 of the Walking Dead comic book series finally dropped the mic and killed Rick Grimes' character once and for all. That's it. It's done. We've seen Rick Grimes zombified, and nothing in the Walking Dead universe, at least in the comic books, is ever going to be the same. And I've already started to see people talking about whether or not this is going to happen in those Rick Grimes movies. Of course, a lot of people have been talking about for the last year or so that during these movies, Rick Grimes is going to have to die. They've said that he's never coming back to the television show, and we're not entirely sure how much longer the main television show is going to go, or Fear the Walking Dead, or how these movies are going to intersect with the story that's being told in the television show or the broader universe. But still, I don't think that that's going to happen. I feel like Rick Grimes' death in the comic books is a sole comic book thing. I'm not saying that no character is going to have that death. In fact, I'm going to be making videos later about what I think and who I think is going to take that death sometime in the main television show, whether it intersects with the movies or not. But right now, I feel like this would be a definitive and great ending for Rick Grimes and his character, and it would do a lot to justify why they introduced Al in the first place and why she is the only character within the entire universe, I think, who just cannot simply learn her lesson and is quite literally a one-note character with every single decision and interaction that she has with everybody in the entire show of Fear the Walking Dead. This is something that they've been building up. They want you to know who she is and how she operates. So by the time they get to the movie, you're going to understand, or at least you're going to have an idea of who she is, and she can be well developed there as a side character to Rick Grimes as we see them go through these adventures. Of course, I could be completely wrong about all of this, but one of the things I love about this theory is that it does set up, at least in my opinion, a perfect endgame for Rick Grimes' character in the TV movies, throughout the TV show, and doesn't step on the death or the legacy of the comic book character that is Rick Grimes. I hope everyone has enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. It's been real.